The massive chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with worried voices as alien delegates stared at the glowing displays floating above their heads. Red dots showed the Vorthok warfleet moving closer to 3 peaceful star systems. Ambassador Kyung, an older man from Earth, sat perfectly still in his fancy blue robes, but his eyes showed the fear everyone felt. The room's computer spoke in a cold, mechanical voice that bounced off the high walls. The Vorthok Empire wants these 3 systems to give up right now, but they said they will talk one more time. They only want to talk to a human person. Strange sounds filled the air as different alien species reacted. The bug-like Zephyrians made clicking noises with their mouthparts, clearly not believing what they heard. The crystal people called Veltar changed colors to show they thought this was a bad idea. Their bodies glowed with orange and red lights. That meant doubt and worry. A snake-like creature named Ambassador Velkrith twisted his long body in anger. "This makes no sense at all," he said with a hissing voice. "Humans have only been flying in space for 200 years. They do not know how to handle such important talks." In the upper seats where assistants sat, a young woman named Rena leaned forward to listen better. Even though she wore regular clothes instead of a uniform, anyone could tell she used to be a soldier. She sat up very straight and her dark eyes moved around the room like she was watching for danger. She had been a spy and scout in the military before becoming a helper for diplomats. She understood both fighting and fancy political talk, but she liked the simple truth of war better than the complicated lies of politics. Ambassador Kyung spoke in a calm voice that did not show his worries. "We cannot choose what the want?" they asked for her specifically. He looked up at Rina in the crowd. "Captain Rina will speak for Earth and all human people." Rina felt like every alien in the huge room was staring at her. She had joined the diplomatic service because she wanted to get away from memories of war and death. She did not want to walk into another fight. But when she looked at the floating pictures showing millions of families living peacefully in the 3 star systems that were in danger, she knew she had no choice but to help. Just a few hours later, she found herself walking onto a small spaceship called the Harmony. The Council had picked this ship because it looked friendly and harmless, not because it had good weapons or strong shields. Her team was very small, just 3 other people. There was Tay, a young man who handled all the communication equipment. There was Bora, a woman who fixed machines and understood how spaceships worked. And there was Alex, a computer assistant that could talk and help them. As their ship jumped into hyperspace and the stars outside turned into long streaks of light, Tay called out from his workstation, "Captain, I am listening to Vorthok radio messages. The way their warships are positioned does not look right for peace talks." Rena walked over to look at the glowing screen that showed where all the enemy ships were located. Her old soldier instincts started to wake up, like a sleeping guard dog that heard a strange noise. "Keep listening to their messages. And Tay," she turned to look at the young man, "record everything we see and hear. I think we are going to need proof of what really happens out there." The 3 star systems they were trying to save were called Kepler, Vega, and Proxima. Each one had billions of people living normal lives, going to work, raising children, never thinking that alien warships might destroy their homes. Rena had seen what happened when war came to peaceful places. She had walked through burned cities and counted bodies. She would not let that happen again if she could stop it. As she watched the stars fly past the window, Rena could not shake a bad feeling growing in her stomach. The Vorthok were famous throughout the galaxy for being perfect soldiers who followed strict rules and fought with honor. But asking for a human negotiator seemed completely wrong for them. In all her years as a soldier and spy, Rena had learned that when something seemed too easy or convenient, it was usually a trap. The Vorthok had been conquering planets for hundreds of years. They knew exactly how to fight wars and win them. So why would they suddenly want to talk to the youngest, weakest species in the Council? Why would they specifically ask for someone from Earth, a planet most aliens still thought was full of primitive creatures who barely knew how to fly between stars. Rena stood at the front window of their ship, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace, and tried to figure out what the Vorthok really wanted. Whatever it was, she was sure it was not peace. But she was the only hope for those 3 star systems, so she would play their game and see where it led. The trap was waiting for her somewhere in the darkness between the stars, but she would be ready for it. The space station called Concordia floated alone in the empty darkness between star systems. Its metal surface was so shiny and clean that it reflected the light from faraway stars like a mirror. When Rena's ship Harmony got closer to dock, she looked out the window and felt her heart sink. There were way too many Vorthok warships floating around the station. Bora, the woman who worked with machines and computers, counted them from her control panel. "Captain, I see 12 Vorthok warships out there. When people come to talk about peace, they should only bring 3 ships to protect themselves." Rena's mouth became a tight line as she felt anger and worry mixed together in her chest. "Write that down in our records. Let's see what they tell us about all those extra ships." Their small ship connected to the station without any problems. But as soon as they were locked in place, Rena felt a small shaking in the floor. She knew that feeling meant the station had turned on its big communication equipment. A few minutes later, Tay confirmed what she was afraid of. "Captain, they are blocking all our messages to the outside. We cannot talk to the Council, or Earth, or anyone else." The Vorthok group that met them in the station's main meeting room looked very scary. General Thrakmer was almost 8 feet tall, much bigger than any human. His skin looked like a lizard's skin, and he had many scars on his face and arms from fighting in wars. He wore a bright red uniform with shiny medals and symbols that showed he was very important in the Vorthok army. His yellow eyes looked at Rena like he thought she was funny, the way a cat might look at a small mouse. "So, the humans sent us a child," Thrakmer said in a deep voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. A small machine changed his alien words into language Rena could understand. "I thought they would send someone bigger and more important. I came here to talk about peace," Rena said calmly as she sat down at the round table in the middle of the room. "Should we start talking now?" For the next 3 hours, they pretended to have a real discussion about ending the war. The voice told them what they wanted. They wanted all the Council's spaceships to leave the 3 star systems completely. They wanted everyone to agree that the Vorthok now owned those places. They also wanted the people living there to pay money and resources to the Vorthok every year, like taxes to a king. These were not really peace offers. They were the kinds of demands that winners make to losers after a war is already over. But Rena was not really paying attention to the fake peace talks. Her military training had taught her to always watch everything around her. She counted how many guards were in the room and noticed where they stood. She saw that the Vorthok soldiers kept looking at their watches like they were waiting for something important to happen at a specific time. During a break in the talks, she told the aliens she needed to use the bathroom, but instead, she walked around the station to explore. What she found when she looked out a big window made her blood feel like ice water. The Vorthok war fleet was not arranged in a circle around the station like ships that were protecting something. Instead, they were lined up in attack position, with their front ends pointing toward the 3 star systems they were supposed to be negotiating about. "Alex," she whispered to the small computer on her wrist, "look at how those ships are positioned and tell me what you think they are planning to do." The computer's answer made her worst fears come true. "The ships are arranged for attacking 3 different targets at the same time, Captain. Based on their position and distance, they could reach their targets in about 18 hours. Rena's mind raced as she understood what was really happening. The peace talks were fake. They were just meant to keep her busy while the Vorthok got ready to attack all 3 star systems at once. While the Galaxy Council's ships stayed in their normal defensive positions around their planets. Thinking there was still hope for peace, the Vorthok were preparing to strike with overwhelming force. She tried to send messages to the council through every method she could think of, but nothing worked. The Vorthok had blocked all communications completely. Even the most advanced quantum message systems that should have been impossible to stop were somehow not working. They were completely cut off from any help. When she came back to the meeting room, General Thrakmer's face had changed. He was no longer pretending to be polite and diplomatic. Now he looked at her with the cold, calculating eyes of a hunter who had cornered his prey. "Tell me, Captain Rena," he said, his claws making clicking sounds as he tapped them on the metal table. "What do you know about how humans fight wars?" "I am here as a diplomat, not a soldier," she answered carefully, trying not to show her fear. "But you were a soldier before." Captain Rena, former scout and spy, veteran of the Titan mining wars. Your species' first real fight in outer space. His smile showed rows of sharp teeth like a shark. "We have been studying you, Captain, learning about your kind. Your people worry us." Rena kept her face calm, but her heart started beating faster. "Why would we worry you?" "Because you are unpredictable, and do not follow logical rules. Your species wins fights you should lose, uses strategies that should not work, and adapts in ways that confuse military science." Thrakmer leaned forward across the table. "We cannot allow such a dangerous unknown to grow stronger in our galaxy." Now Rena understood everything. This was not just about conquering 3-star systems. The Vorthok wanted to destroy humanity before humans became a bigger threat. The peace talks were meant to keep her here so they could study how humans think when under pressure, while their fleets destroyed the Council's defenses and then came for Earth. "You are making a big mistake," Rena said quietly. "Am I?" Thrakmer laughed like grinding stone. "We have you trapped here, your communications cut off, your allies unaware of our coming attack. What mistake could we possibly be making?" Rena looked directly into his yellow eyes without flinching. "You think I will just sit here and let you do whatever you want?" The Vorthok guards walked Rena and her team through long metal hallways to rooms that were supposed to be for important visitors. But these rooms looked more like jail cells than nice guest rooms. The doors closed with a loud click and glowed with blue light from electromagnetic locks that would need big machines to break open. Small cameras and sensors watched their every move from the walls and ceiling. Captain Tay whispered as soon as the guards left them alone, "What are we going to do now?" Rena looked around their prison room with the careful eyes of someone who had been trained to escape from bad situations. The room was completely white and empty, built by aliens who cared more about things working properly than looking nice. Everything was made the way Vorthax liked it, which meant it was built to keep Vorthax locked up, not humans. "Bora," she said quietly to the engineer, "what do you know about how this station gets air and water and power?" Bora's eyes lit up as she understood what Rena was thinking. "It's built in sections, Captain. Each part of the station can work by itself, but they are all controlled from one central place. The Vorthax like to have backup systems for everything. Having backup systems means everything is connected in complicated ways. Complicated things can break more easily." Rena got down on her knees next to a small control panel on the wall that managed the air and temperature in their room. "Can you get into this computer system without making alarms go off? Give me 10 minutes to figure it out." While Bora worked on the environmental controls, Rena turned to Tay. "I need you to do something that will sound completely crazy. Start sending out random signals on every radio frequency you can reach. Random signals." "Captain, that will just make meaningless noise that bothers everyone." "Exactly right. The Vorthok mind works like a computer, very logical and organized. They always look for patterns and try to understand everything. What do you think happens when you give creatures who look for patterns something that has no pattern at all?" Tay's confused expression changed to understanding as he realized what she meant. They will waste lots of time trying to figure out what the noise means, and while they are busy trying to find secret messages in meaningless, static We will work on our real plan. Rena walked over to a small food machine built into the wall. Like everything else on the station, it was designed the way Vortex liked things: simple, logical, and predictable. She asked her wrist computer Alex to analyze the molecular structure of the food machine's power parts. While the computer worked, Rena started taking things from the food machine that seemed completely random: cleaning liquid, food containers, medical supplies. To anyone watching, it would look like she was just nervous and fidgeting, but she was choosing each item because of specific chemical properties it had. "Captain," Bora whispered urgently, "I got into the environmental control system. I can change the temperature, humidity, even the air mixture within certain limits. Perfect. In exactly 30 minutes, I want you to make the air recycling system in Sector 7 break down. Make it look like the machines just stopped working normally. That will set off emergency alarms and safety procedures, which will force maintenance teams to rush there to fix it, pulling guards away from other parts of the station." Rena mixed the cleaning solution with medical alcohol she had gotten from the food machine. "While they are dealing with that crisis, we will create 2 more emergencies." For the next 20 minutes, Rena worked with materials that would look completely harmless if anyone analyzed them. Vorthok security, thinking in their logical way, would check each item and find no threat. But human creativity had always been about seeing possibilities where others saw only limitations. The first crisis started exactly when planned. Loud alarms began ringing as Sector 7's air systems showed multiple failures on their monitoring screens. Through their cell's small window, they could see Vorthok maintenance crews running through the hallways. Their usually perfect formations, broken up by the unexpected emergency. "Now, Tay," Rena whispered. The communications officer turned on a device he had built from pieces of their personal equipment. It began broadcasting on radio frequencies throughout the entire spectrum, not the meaningless static he had mentioned, but something far more confusing to alien minds: human music. The effect on the Vorthok was immediate and obvious. Their movements became less coordinated as their pattern-seeking brains struggled to find military importance in the apparently random sequences of sound. They began putting guards at communication stations, trying to trace where the music was coming from, using resources to fight what they thought was a sophisticated psychological warfare attack. "Phase 2, Borarina said. The engineer triggered the second planned failure, this time in the station's artificial gravity generators. The gravity fluctuated wildly in seemingly random sections, creating chaos as Vorthok personnel found themselves floating in the air or suddenly pressed hard to the floor. Through all of this, Rena had been working on her real project. The improvised chemical mixture she had created was now ready. A compound that would eat through the electromagnetic seals on their door in exactly 12 minutes. "Captain," Alex's voice came through her wrist communicator. "I have been monitoring communications. Their fleet commanders are demanding status reports, but the station staff are too busy managing crises to give clear answers." "Good. When logical minds are forced to deal with chaos, they freeze up trying to understand it." Rena checked her watch. "In 8 minutes, we are going to give them something even more confusing to think about." Right on schedule, their cell door's electromagnetic seal began to smoke and throw sparks. The Vorthax had built their prison to contain their own kind, logical beings who would wait for rescue or try systematic escape methods. They had not planned for someone who would turn their own infrastructure against them using hotel supplies and elevator music. "Remember," Rena said, as they got ready to leave their cell, "we are not trying to fight our way out with weapons. We are trying to make them so busy putting out fires that they forget to watch for the real threat." The door seal failed with a shower of bright sparks, and they stepped into a hallway filled with the sound of alarms and the chaos of a station falling apart. The hallways of the Concordia space station had turned into a confusing mess. Red emergency. Lights flashed on and off, making scary shadows dance on the walls. Vorthok crew members ran back and forth between different crisis areas. Their normally perfect military order, completely broken by having to deal with many emergencies happening at the same time. Rena led her team through all this chaos like someone who had learned to fight in city streets during war. She moved smoothly and quietly, but this time they were not trying to escape from the station. Instead, they were heading toward the most dangerous place of all, the station's main control room where all the important decisions were made. "Captain," Bora whispered, as they stopped at a place where 3 hallways met. "The command center will have lots of guards protecting it. We cannot fight our way through all of them." "We are not going to fight anyone at all," Rena replied, watching a group of Vorthok security soldiers run past them, toward another fake emergency she had created. "We are going to walk right through the front door, like we belong there." She touched the small computer on her wrist. "Alex, I need you to break into the station's employee database and make fake ID cards that say we are a Vorthok maintenance inspection team." "Captain, that would mean illegally breaking into classified computer systems." "Yes, I know, it is illegal. Do it anyway." While Alex worked on creating the fake identification cards, Rena explained her plan to her team. The Vorthok mind worked like a strict military organization with clear ranks and rules. When they saw proper ID cards and official procedures, they almost never questioned authority, especially when crisis situations were happening all around them. The fake Vorthok maintenance uniforms they had put together from stolen clothing and equipment would not fool anyone who looked closely. But in all the chaos of multiple emergencies happening at once, maybe no one would look too carefully. "Remember," Rena said as they got ready to walk toward the command center, "move like you have important work to do. Act like you belong here, and whatever happens, do not break character and act like humans." They walked toward the command center's main security checkpoint, where a single guard barely looked at their fake ID cards before waving them through. Inside the command center, the scene was organized chaos. Dozens of Vorthok officers working together to coordinate responses to all the system failures throughout the station. General Thrakmer stood in the center of it all, his loud voice booming orders as reports came in from every part of the station. "Give me a status report on the communication problems." "Sir, we have found the source in 17 different locations. But every time we stop one signal, 2 more appear somewhere else. The pattern suggests there might be a hidden strategy." "There is no pattern," Thrakmer roared angrily. "It is random noise designed to waste our time." But even as he said those words, Rena could see doubt in his yellow eyes. The Vorthax could not accept that something could truly be random and meaningless. There had to be a hidden message, a deeper strategy. Their systematic minds were their greatest strength in normal warfare. But against human unpredictability, it had become a weakness. Rena and her team moved through the command center like they belonged there, checking systems, making notes, perfectly, copying the behavior of a real maintenance crew. The actual maintenance staff were too busy dealing with real emergencies to question why there was additional help. "Tay," she whispered quietly, "can you access their fleet communication system?" From here, the communications officer nodded toward a control panel near the center of the room. "That is their main military communication hub. But Captain, trying to use it would be like signing our death warrants." "I know, it is suicide to even attempt it." Rena watched the flow of activity around them, unless they are too distracted by emergencies to notice what we are doing. She moved toward the communication hub with deliberate casualness, as if she was just doing a routine maintenance check. The Vorthok officer monitoring the station barely looked at her as she began working on the console. What she was trying to do was technically impossible. She needed to access the fleet's tactical communication network, identify the command frequencies for each battle group, and then do something even more impossible. "Alex," she spoke so quietly that only her computer could hear, "I need you to analyze Vorthok fleet communication rules, and create a fake recording of General Thrakmer's voice. Captain, pretending to be military command authority is extremely dangerous. That is the least of our problems right now. Just do it. While her computer worked on copying the general's voice, Rena continued, pretending to do maintenance while actually breaking into the fleet communication system. Around her, the command center buzzed with activity as the Vorthax continued responding to all the crises she had created. Sir, a young officer approached General Thrakmer. We are receiving conflicting orders from different fleet commanders. Battle Group 7 reports orders to advance immediately, but Battle Group 3 says they were ordered to stay in position. Thrakmer's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Show me these communications. Rena's heart beat faster. Her plan was working, but she needed more time. As the general reviewed the conflicting orders she had sent using ALEX's fake voice simulation, she began the next phase of her plan. Instead of trying to contact the Galactic Council directly through the communication blockade, she began broadcasting on emergency frequencies used by civilian ships throughout the sector. The messages were brief, coded in terms that would mean nothing to the Vortex, but everything to anyone familiar with human military shorthand. Fleet movement starting soon. 3 target systems. 18 hours remaining. It was not much of a message, but in the vast network of civilian communications throughout the galaxy, even small messages had a way of reaching the right people who could do something about it. The command center had turned into controlled chaos as Vorthok's computer. Experts worked desperately to fix their broken systems. General Thrakmer stood stiff and angry in the center of it all, his yellow eyes looking at computer screens that made less sense every minute. Rena and her team had moved to a viewing deck that looked out over the main docking area. From there, they could watch what was happening because of all the trouble they had caused. Through the huge glass windows, the Vorthok war fleet floated in space, but their perfect military formation was starting to fall apart as confused orders spread through their communication network. Captain, Tay said quietly, I am listening to their fleet communications. 3 battle groups are getting orders that do not match each other. 2 more are asking for someone to explain what their missions really are, and at least 1 commander is demanding to talk directly to General Thrakmer. What about the messages we sent to civilian ships? 17 different ships have received our broadcast so far, including 2 Council freight ships that have quantum communication equipment. Tay's smile looked worried but hopeful. The news is spreading to people who can help. Rena nodded, but she was thinking about the bigger picture. The Vorthok fleet was frozen by confusion, and their carefully planned attack was falling apart because of all the contradictory information. But this would not last forever. Eventually, they would fix their problems, cut through all the chaos, and start their attack on the 3 peaceful star systems, unless she gave them something completely different to worry about. Alex, she said softly to her wrist computer, look at the current battle situation and tell me what you think will happen with the Vorthok fleet. Right now, there is only a 37% chance they can successfully attack all 3 systems at the same time, and that number is getting smaller. The confusion in their command structure has messed up the timing coordination between battle groups. What are the chances they will give up the attack completely? Less than 5%. Captain, Vorthok military rules do not allow strategic withdrawal unless they face overwhelming opposition. That was the problem. The Vortex were warriors above everything else. They could not be scared away or convinced to give up through normal methods, but they could be shown a truth that would make them think twice about their assumptions regarding humanity. The solution came to her in a moment of clarity that felt almost like seeing the future. She was not going to defeat the Vorthok fleet in battle. She was going to make them defeat themselves. Bora, can you access the station's external sensor array? With some work, yes? What are you looking for? I need detailed scans of every ship in their fleet. Structural integrity, power signatures, crew numbers, everything. As Bora worked, Rena put together the most daring bluff in military history. The Vortex respected strength above all else, but they also feared the unknown. She was about to show them something that would completely change their understanding of both. 30 minutes later, she was back in the station's communication center, this time with no attempt to hide. General Thrakmer looked up as she entered, his expression changing from surprise to anger. "Captain Rena, I should have expected this." His claws extended slightly, like a cat showing its weapons. "You have caused considerable problems for our operations." "I am just getting started," she replied calmly. "I would like to suggest some changes to our peace negotiations." "You are hardly in a position to make demands, am I not?" Rena turned on her wrist communicator, and Alex's voice filled the command center with information that made every Vorthok officer freeze like statues. Vorthok vessel called Prime Hunter, structural weakness in Deck 7 wall section, can be destroyed through targeted electromagnetic pulse at frequency 2.7 ter. Vessel called Star Render, power coupling problem in main engineering, vulnerable to feedback loop cascade if auxiliary power is cut off. The list continued for nearly 2 minutes, giving specific weaknesses in every ship in the Vorthok fleet, information that should have been impossible for her to get. Delivered with the calm precision of someone who had studied their vessels for months instead of hours. "Impossible," whispered one of the Vorthok tactical officers. "Those are classified engineering specifications that nobody outside our military should know." "Your mistake," Rena said, speaking directly to General Thrakmer, "was thinking that chaos meant weakness. You saw our unpredictability as a flaw to be fixed, instead of a strength to be respected." Thrakmar's expression had changed from anger to something closer to uncertainty. "You could not have gotten this information through the disruptions you caused, could I not? You have spent the last 6 hours watching us do impossible things with inadequate resources. You have seen us turn your own systems against you, coordinate attacks you could not predict or stop. And now I am showing you knowledge of your fleet that your own security could not protect." Rena stepped closer to the command console. "Tell me, General, what else might we be capable of?" The silence in the command center was complete. Rena could see the calculations running behind Thrakmer's eyes, the warrior's mind struggling with implications that challenged everything he thought he knew about human capabilities. "You are bluffing," he said finally, but there was no confidence in his voice. "Am I?" Rena pointed to the tactical display showing his fleet's positions. "Your Battle Group 7 is currently 17 degrees off optimal firing position because of navigation corrections caused by false sensor readings. Your communication array on the Devastator is operating at 60% efficiency because of interference patterns that should not exist. Your entire assault plan is falling apart because we introduced variables you could not account for." She paused, letting the weight of evidence settle in his mind. "Now, imagine what we could do if we really considered you a threat. The change." In general, Thrakmer's expression was subtle but unmistakable. The confident predator was replaced by a strategic thinker facing an entirely new category of opponent. "What do you propose?" he asked finally. "Real negotiations, not the fake discussions you planned, but genuine diplomatic talks between equals. Your people get the honor of being the first to establish formal relations with humanity as peer species. Our people get to avoid a war that would be costly for both sides. And if we refuse," Rena's smile was entirely without warmth, "then you get to explain to your high command how a single human with a 3-person crew neutralized your entire fleet using hotel supplies and elevator music." The silence stretched for long moments. Then General Thrakmer's expression shifted into something that might have been respect. "Very well, Captain Rena, let us negotiate properly." As the Vorthok fleet began standing down from attack positions and the communication jamming stopped, Rena felt a familiar satisfaction. Not the satisfaction of victory in battle, but something rarer and more valuable. the satisfaction of a war that would never be fought.